I am standing in front of a very unique and rare Ottoman mosque, and you're probably wondering what makes this so special. These things are commonplace in Turkey, and you're right, you're correct, but I'm not in Turkey. I'm not in Albania, I'm not in Kosovo, I'm not in Bosnia for that matter. No, I'm in Hungary, a nation with an obscure Ottoman Islamic past. But this mosque behind me wasn't the only thing the Ottomans left behind, because from lonely minarets to warm Turkish baths to even the internal organs of Sultan Suleiman. Join me, accompany me on a hunt, on a quest, on a journey through Hungary to find the lost remnants, the breadcrumbs of the Ottoman Islamic rule in Hungary.
This is a hunt like none other. The task that I'd set upon myself had never before been accomplished in video form.
To track down every living relic of the 150-year Ottoman dominion in Hungary. But it wasn't going to be easy. All of these relics were either erased or, more interestingly, disguised in plain sight, as if you know where to look. So likely chance is you've never seen my work before, and you likely will never if you don't subscribe immediately. I wouldn't want you to miss out on what's to come. Oh, and one last thing, let me do you a favour. If you can support the non-profit journalist's work with any money you can, using the link in the bio, you'll receive my ultimate Bosnia itinerary booklet, full of Muslim history locations and travel guidance for your visit in Bosnia. So, after months of conducting research, I knew my hunt had to begin at one particular city, Budapest, their capital. But it wouldn't be long into my hunt before things wouldn't look so urban and polished. Quite the opposite, in fact, because this hunt will take me across the entire country over the course of the next episodes, through remote towns and small, off-the-radar settlements. So you want to be sure not to miss out on what's to come, trust me. But first, Budapest. The landscape, the scenery, the skyline that I can see now, about 400 or 500 years ago was actually scattered with pencil minarets and mosques, and famous mosques like the Mustafa Susukulu Mosque, which was actually built by renowned Muslim architects like Mimar Sinan. But now, after 200 years of the Ottoman conquest, little remains of the remnants of that era. My friends, welcome to Buda Castle, and our story, when it comes to the Ottomans and Hungary, begins here. I guarantee none of these people know that there was once an Islamic kingdom here in Hungary. And it was from that very castle that this all was managed and ruled from. Because the Ottoman Empire, its mightiness, its grandeur, had stretched and ranged over swaths of European territory. And Sultan Suleiman, the man who had taken to power from 1520 to about 1566, his death, his ambition was a small yet faraway land called Hungary. And it all starts from this very castle, which introduces one of two protagonists of our story, both of whom were buried in Hungary. One who was actually buried in Budapest itself, but I'll have to tell you all about that later on. For now, Sultan Suleiman, the one who was named the Magnificent by his enemies, by his mortal enemies, by the West, but he was also known as Al-Qanuni, the lawgiver. He was a legislator. He was one of the most famous legislators. He was a poet. He managed to bring the Ottoman Empire to a state to which no other emperors or sultans before him had ever accomplished. He had taken the flag of Islam, the flag of the Ottomans, and reached as furthest as he could. And these lands were those very particular lands in which he had reached. It was Sultan Suleiman's personal dream to see the banner of the Muslims at the gates of Vienna. And so he would. In 1526, after the Battle of Mohacs, the shortest yet greatest battle in history. In just 2 hours, Suleiman and his army crushed the ramshackled kingdom of Hungary. And that same year, Suleiman would march triumphantly into Budapest. He had accomplished his dream. Hungary wasn't just some random slither of land in Europe, it was the furthest northern frontier of any Islamic kingdom. By 1541, the Ottomans marched triumphantly, with Sultan Suleiman as well, into the city of Budapest. Under the advice of his fellow ulama or scholars, they instructed Suleiman to make the Matthias church behind me, a church which has been here for centuries, was made into the grand mosque of Buda for the next 150 years. And so on the first Friday prayer, the first Jummah Salah of the Ottomans in this land, they did it in this very church. All these tourists probably don't even know that this was once also a mosque. But Sultan Suleiman, when he walked into this church, similar to how Mehmed the Conqueror walked into Hagia Sophia, he proclaimed the victory of the Ottomans in the sermon that was delivered here. So I don't know how accurate my assumption is. Imam would have gone up and done his sermon. That may be the spot in which that happened. Thank you.
But it wasn't just this Matthias church which was once a mosque, because this whole area was scattered with 67 mosques.
But these mosques have to be somewhere. I mean, there's no way Budapest's mosques have just vanished without any trace or any evidence. Well, I'm right, because although Budapest's mosques became extinct after the Ottomans were kicked out of the region, some have lived on, veiled in new walls, modified beyond recognition, frozen in a past they're no longer allowed to show. This is Budapest Parish Church, a seemingly normal church like the many other in this city. However, upon closer inspection, it has a Muslim past. The only part of this mosque which remains is the prayer niche facing the Qibla, which is the direction towards Mecca. This is evidence that we have, one of few remaining evidence that Muslims were here, the civilization here, there was a community. Imagine for the Fajr Salah and all the Jummah prayers, today's Jummah. About 400 or 500 years ago, this place would be absolutely filled with Ottomans, people who weren't Turkish, by the way, Hungary converts, Bosniaks and even Serbs, in a community where people could practice their religion. If you were oppressed and you were Orthodox and oppressed by the Catholics, you had safe passage here, and even Jews as well were able to live freely. However, before and after the Ottoman conquest, the Jews were persecuted, they were kicked out of Hungary. To see amongst all the crosses, I find it very poetic that the words Allah remains. At that very spot right there that I'm pointing at, only Allah knows how many sajdas were made there. Only Allah knows how much Quran, how much tilawat of the words, the kalima of Allah were recited in this building. How blessed it was for those 150 years. The suhuf were here. You can imagine all the calligraphy and the Quranic inscriptions which were once here. This is not some fairy tale. This was a reality for 150 years. Even after 500 years of this place being converted into a church, all the signs of it being a mosque was erased. Still, to this day, you can see the words Allah written in Arabic in plain sight, a reminder and a vestige of a long gone period. We're once again in the heart of Budapest, hunting for more remnants of mosques. And I think I've just spotted something. While today those who pass by and look at this church think nothing of it, there is something behind me that is remarkably rare. That is the surviving wall of a former Ottoman mosque. It was the Tajgun Pasha Mosque, built in 1555. And after the Ottoman Muslims and Jews also were expelled from this region after 1686, Christians turned this into a church and disfigured it. And it was one of the 67 mosques which were once here in Budapest. Okay, it's currently 6 a.m. I'm in Buda Castle, having my breakfast, when I noticed something utterly bizarre behind me. So I come round here, and as I get a little bit closer, I realize that this isn't just an ordinary park. No, in fact, this is the former gravesite
of many Ottoman Muslims. The Ottomans may be gone for 5 centuries, however sprinkled across this city, Budapest and Hungary in general, are small reminders of that bygone period. And while these date back 500 years, can you imagine in a capital city in Europe?
But this whole area was once a cemetery. Sadly today, many of that was destroyed. Graves of people who are scholars, graves of people who are noble and who are revered in Ottoman society. There was a full-on civilization here. It wasn't just, we've come here to conquer. It was much more than that. A dream of a sultan and an accomplishment of an empire.
But today, beyond the fact that this was once the capital of Ottoman Hungary, it has now become the capital of tourist traps.
As if you have to literally pay money to walk up some steps. That's ridiculous. Imagine taking a picture there and stopping for about an hour to flip in like a picture with like 1,500 other people in the shop. Couldn't be me. It actually couldn't be me. Okay, without wasting any more daylight, we're gonna make our way to another monument that is indicative of the Ottomans here in Budapest. Looks like it's up here. So here, in the heart of the heart of Budapest, is a monument dedicated to an Ottoman poet. So Gul Baba was a famous Ottoman poet, but he was also part of the court of Sultan Suleiman the Great. Legend has it, when he was giving the Friday sermon, the religious sermon at the Matthias church that I showed you before, he collapses and falls to the ground, and he'd pass away here in Budapest. And so Sultan Suleiman, he made him the Muslim saint or the patron of the entire city of Budapest, and they built what they call turb, or a tomb dedicated to Gul Baba. Now the tomb was left in ruins after the Ottomans were forced to flee, but of course this is one of the only tombs, I think it's one of 2 tombs that are still left in the entirety of Hungary. And so in 2016, the Turkish government and the Hungarian government actually collaborated in restoring the region around me. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. I gotta say, the reverberation in that is truly sublime. On my way out from the cemetery, I met Attila the Hungarian, a local in Budapest.
My name is Attila.
As a Hungarian, what do you think of the Ottoman Empire?
Yeah, so I see it as a friendly entity, historically, because even though they ruled over us for a long period of time,
right,
but it wasn't really a malevolent rule, you know.
Okay.
So we could keep our religion, we could live in peace, pretty much.
Interesting.
So I think the relationship between Hungary and Turkey to this day as well is really
pretty good,
amicable, yeah, because of this.
And do you think this is the sentiment that most Hungarians have?
I think as we uncover more and more about the history and we connect maybe the Huns with the Turkic groups of people as well, you know, I think more and more Hungarians tend to have a favorable opinion.
In Hungarian culture today, can you see any remnants of the Ottoman times?
In terms of the cuisine, for sure, well, because the people here are used to Turkish culture, they actively seek them out.
We also have common words like paprika, cukor, which is still in the Hungarian language. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of influence trickled down a bit to softer areas of life, such as cuisine, yeah, a bit of the babes.
And Attila wasn't wrong.
It was only about 200 to 150 years of occupation, so there wasn't enough time to make a long-lasting impression on the country. However, there was one thing the Ottomans were bloody good at doing, and that was creating Turkish baths. On the left of this church should be something unusual. This is a memory, a lost memory of the old Ottoman past, and it's just sitting here in the city centre. And if you notice on top, you see small little circles on the domes. Those are actually for the sunlight.
An integral part of Ottoman hygiene and cleanliness.
directly inspired actually by Islamic hygiene practices. The capital, Budapest, once housed anywhere up to 16 hammams, better known today as Turkish baths, while today only 3 Ottoman-era baths remain. The culture, nevertheless, has lived on.
But there are dozens in the city that were from the Ottoman times that are still today used as baths. There were attempts to make this into an actual functioning Turkish bath, but unfortunately there's too many Turkish baths here in Budapest, so they didn't really need another Turkish bath. Once again, yet another Turkish bath here in Budapest. This one even grander, even bigger than the other one. Wow, that is incredible. I wish you could go inside somehow, but you have to take your clothes off and go into a room full of old people. Now, I wasn't ready to show you a bunch of B-roll footage of half-naked Hungarians bathing around in Ottoman baths, but you can take my word for it. The Hungarians love the bathing culture, and I know this video couldn't end without a conversation with this man, the bathhouse bandit of Budapest, aka Willy. He's famous for his obsessions with Hungarian baths.
My favorite bath is a very easy answer, and it's a very sad answer. I think it's an answer that you'll like because it has to do with the Ottoman history of Budapest. Király bath, and it is, I don't know if this is a family-friendly program, fucking tragedy that it was built in the middle of the 16th century, and it's been closed since COVID.
The bathing culture in Hungary today, how big is it?
Yeah, it's very popular. Older generations, they love it. And you see tons of retirees just chilling in the baths. And that's why also, like, every empire that's been here, the Roman Empire, even before the Ottomans, they've been intrigued by the water, and they've used it to their advantage. Obviously, the Ottomans, they had a big culture about like purity and the closeness that left you to God. Okay, this is a great place. Let's build a bath. It's going to be good for public health. And I think the people that just have lived here and have inhabited this geography, they've always had baths here. The Ottoman legacy in Hungary was something that I was always intensely fascinated by. Whoa, Budapest, the Ottomans were here for 150 years. You can't say that about Austria. You can't say that about Germany. You look at those occupiers, the Ottomans were the first. And so a lot of their buildings and structures have naturally disintegrated. And plus, I think there was an intense desire to sort of cleanse the society of any remain of the Ottoman era. Now there's not so much left. And I think what is left behind, people are very intrigued by and they're very fascinated by.
And this fascination was experienced by Hungarians in the 1900s at a time where Turkey and Hungary, which for the most part for centuries have been adversaries and rivals, are now beginning to draw closer to one another. I am at the Turkish memorial here in Budapest. Buried here are 480 Muslim Ottoman soldiers who died in the Galicia front in World War I. It was a symbol of the renewed friendship between the Turkish and the Hungarian empires.
And so wealthy Hungarians from the 1800s began designing buildings in the Ottoman Islamic architectural style, like the largest synagogue in Europe, completed in 1859. As you can see, it incorporates Moorish architecture. I mean, these two resemble minarets, a subtle association with the Islamic East.
And if that surprised you, wait until you hear about this. Okay, I want you to take a look at what is behind me. No, that is not a mosque. I am in dead center Budapest. That is an elephant enclosure built in the 1900s. But it wasn't built as an insult. In fact, it was just a weird obsession. But this thing was so controversial because it literally looked like a mosque that it risked the relationship between the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the heat of the First World War in 1915. Now, this thing was built over what once was the Budapest exhibition for the Ottoman quarter. In the 1800s, the Hungarians built an entire exhibition, an entire quarter inside of Budapest that was modeled, a replica of Ottoman Budapest. They had castles, they had bazaars, and they even went as far as building a fully operational mosque. They went above and beyond with historical accuracy by hiring Turkish imams and muezzins who would give the hourly call to prayer. And so the mosque was somewhere around about where I am today. It no longer exists because it was intended to be a temporary exhibition. And even though it was temporary, almost 6 million people had visited this exhibition during its lifetime. But it was much more than just an exhibition. If you want to know more about this story, I'm going to make a short film dedicated just to this story alone. So do keep an eye out on the channel, hit subscribe, press the like button to ensure that you're never going to miss out
on the newest uploads. After ticking off Budapest from my map, my journey would now lead me north to a spectacle unimaginable in the heart of Europe. But I'll see you all in episode 2.